Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to install Xampp. Xampp is a great piece of software that allows you to run a server on your computer for doing various web development tasks. So we're going to start off in Chrome, and we're going to look for Xampp, and that's Xampp. And we should find a download page at the apachefriends.org website. And so I'm going to go ahead and click this download link right here. That's going to take us to the downloads page. You will find versions of this for Windows, Linux, and OS X. And there's lots of different versions included here. And the version that we're specifically looking for is 7.2.32. And so if you're on Windows, it's going to be this one. I'm working on a Mac today, and so I'm going to come down and get this one, so 7.2.32, and we want to download that. So it should just take a little bit of time to download. And the process for installing it is going to be the same, whether or not you're on Windows or Mac. There may be some small differences, but overall you should be okay. Okay, so we see that it has downloaded, and so I'm going to go ahead and install it. This process will take a little bit. It's going to be installing, quite a bit onto your computer, and so we're going to run the installer. And we for sure want to open it, and it may ask you to type in your password, verify that it is legitimate software, and it is, which is fine. And we'll just go ahead and walk through the installer wizard. We do want both of these checked, so make sure that you're installing everything. You don't need to learn more about Bitnami, and let's go ahead and install. Now, as this installs, we'll talk a little bit about what it actually does. So Xampp provides for you specifically 3 resources. The first is a Apache server, and this is what actually lets you serve up, HTML web-based files. It also has a Mysql engine on it, which allows us to do all of our database work and be able to kind of store information in tables. The last, which is something that we won't use so much, is an FTP resource for transferring files back and forth. And for us, that's not going to be necessary because the files are going to be on our computer and it's going to be reading from our computer. And so we really won't make much use of that. But the first 2 we'll definitely make quite a bit of use of as we develop the applications that we're going to be using in the class. And so we'll give this just another quick second to finish installing. And then I'm going to show you how to verify that it installed correctly, as well as being able to find out how other people on the network can connect to your server so that they can see the applications that you're developing. So we'll just let this sit for a second, and we'll move on as soon as it's done. Okay, so you can see here that the setup has completed, and we want to go ahead and launch Xampp. So let's go ahead and launch that. Okay. And what you'll see is it will launch this little manager window, and it also opened up Safari. Now, we don't want that because Safari is terrible. But if we go over to Chrome, we'll have that open because we're going to kind of see what effect it has had on our computer. So at this point, we have this welcome, and we're going to click over here on Manage Servers, and we can see that the Apache web server is running, and that's good. And we're going to go ahead and click on Mysql Database and start that as well. So that'll just take a few seconds to start up, and this will give us access to not only getting the web files that are going to be running on our computer, but also to be able to work with some databases. Okay, so we'll come back over to Welcome, and with this, if we go to our Chrome, we can type in localhost, and we should see this welcome page. And this is, again, kind of running locally on our computer. Now this just has some basic information, but we want to change this. We want to make this so that this is our own content that loads up in the browser. And so if we go back here and we click on Open Application Folder, okay, that's going to open up the files on our computer where all this information is stored. Now we want to specifically focus on one folder in general, and that's this Htdocs folder. If we open that up, we'll see tons of files here, and we're actually going to get rid of pretty much all of these. So I'm going to delete these top ones. The one I really want to focus on is index.php. So I'm going to move these to the trash. I'm going to move these to the trash. Okay, it may ask you permission to do that, so that's fine. And I actually want to open this one up. Now I'm going to use Text Wrangler, but you can also use BBEdit or Notepad++. Any text editor is just fine. Okay, and what you'll see here is kind of that sample data. I'm going to get rid of all of that. Yes, I do want to unlock it. And we're going to write our very first PHP file. Now, with PHP, we always start with an opening caret and a closing caret, as well as kind of 2 question marks, and then PHP in the center. Okay, and I'm going to separate those, and anything between this starting line and this ending line is going to be written in the PHP language. So, of course, we're going to write our very first program, and so we're going to say echo hello world, because of course we are. And just like every other programming language, statements always end with a semicolon. So if I save this, and again, I think on PCs it doesn't prompt you for your password all the time. It may prompt you on your Mac, but we're going to save that. And we can see that this is our new file. And if we come over here and we go to localhost, there we can see our hello world. So that's great. Now this localhost means that, again, it's just running locally on our computer. But what if we wanted other people to be able to access this website that we're building? Well, there's an easy way to do that. If you're on a Mac, it's pretty straightforward. Is you can go into your system preferences, you can click on network, and here you can see that you have an IP address. And this is your local IP address on the Berry network. Now this means that only people on the Berry network will be able to connect to your site. This won't be available to anyone outside of that for security reasons. But if we go over here and type in that address, we see that it takes us to hello world. And so if I was on another computer and I typed in this IP address and I was on the Berry network, that person would be able to connect to the files that I'm making. And so that's pretty cool. That's, like I said, is going to allow us to create these applications that are going to be able to pull in some rich data and show it. Now, if you are on a PC, you can also get your IP address by opening up the command prompt or the command terminal and typing ifconfig. So if you do ifconfig, and there's some pretty good tutorials on how to do that. It'll also kind of give you some information on what your IP address is, but you may also just need to Google that. So that's again just how to get very basic, simple PHP files running. But let's talk about this MySQL database. How do we get to that? And so similarly, if we go to localhost /phpMyAdmin and we hit enter, that's going to pull up a utility that allows us to create and modify databases. And so with this, we can create a new database. So I can click new here, and I could create a database called sample. You can create whichever one you want just to kind of get a feeling for how it works. And if we create sample, then we can create a table inside that database. And so we'll call this, I don't know, hello, and tell it that we want 2 columns of data, and that's going to create it for us. And then we can click, an ID. We can click a date maybe, and save. And so again, this is to kind of get you to the point where we can access our SQL databases. We can make new databases. We can make tables within that database. And if you can get it to this point, then you're going to be pretty well set for all the activities that we're going to be doing in class. So again, kind of purpose of this tutorial is to get you set up with Xampp for both being able to serve up web files as well as interact with SQL databases. And that's it.